What do you think is common between fruit and pen knives, hamburgers and plastic gloves, soda and coins? All this can end up in people's stomachs. And what connects peas and air? These two things can be found in people's lungs. Let's find out what weird things doctors found inside their patients' bodies, shall we? A boy in India was playing in a river and accidentally swallowed a small fish. It got not into the stomach, but into the lungs. When the boy was examined in a hospital, doctors discovered that the fish in his lungs was still alive. The doctors managed to extract the swimming creature and save the boy's life. A 75-year-old man came to a doctor and complained of severe discomfort in the chest area. He was sure he had a serious condition, but after examination and tests, doctors found out that a pea had grown in his lungs. It grew, and therefore the man was experiencing severe discomfort. Thing is, he once swallowed a pea and it went down the wrong way. And there were good conditions in the lungs. The pea began to sprout leaves, but the doctors successfully removed it. This woman from California experienced the sensation of a foreign object in the eye and impaired vision. When she went to the hospital, an ophthalmologist found several contact lenses under her upper eyelids. He pulled them out, but there was more. As a result, the doctor took out 23 disposable contact lenses. The doctor said the eyes had lost sensitivity after many years of wearing lenses. The woman didn't notice the missing lenses and put on new ones every time. It continued until the massive stack began to cause discomfort. With age, the gap on the upper eyelid became very deep, so all the lenses had enough space to fit there. She was lucky that everything ended well and her eyes returned to normal. The woman wanted to get into the Guinness Book of Records. She asked the doctors to record a video of the extraction of lenses. But it turned out this record belonged to another woman living in Britain. Doctors found, wait for it, 27 contact lenses in her eyes. The man came to the hospital because of stomach pangs. Doctors conducted a thorough examination and found no problems there, except 40 small knives in the man's stomach. The patient swallowed pen knives for 2 years. Some of them were closed and some were completely open. The doctors removed all of them and saved the man's life. And then the patient said what had happened to him. According to his words, he just felt an impulse and a desire to swallow all these knives. Of course, the doctor realized that he had some mental issues. This problem is called pica. This strange human condition causes a strong desire to eat or swallow inedible objects. Pica cases are quite common and have been known since ancient times. But psychologists and doctors have not been able to determine the causes of this condition. Now, a 55-year-old man came to the hospital with a similar disorder. There were 10 plastic gloves stuck in his intestines. Surgeons operated on him to remove foreign objects. Luckily, they saved the patient's life. 40 pen knives, plastic gloves, lenses in the eyes. All this is not as strange as several sets of cutleries chilling in this woman's stomach. In the 70s, doctors found 78 forks and spoons in the patient's stomach. Doctors pulled out each item with extreme care so as not to damage the internal organs. After a difficult operation, they asked her why she had done that. And she replied she just liked to eat cutlery. Apparently, she also has pica disorder. A young 18-year-old girl often suffered with stomach problems. After each meal, she was sick and lost weight. Just within several days, she lost about 40 pounds. Then her condition became much worse when stomach pains and bloating appeared. Doctors performed a CT scan and saw a strange formation in the upper part of the stomach. Further examination revealed that the girl had an 11-pound ball of hair inside her. This is the weight of 10 basketballs. Hair wasn't digested by the gastric juice, so it accumulated in the girl's belly. Talk about a hairball. A New Yorker turned to a dermatologist because of a strange mole on her skin. The woman claimed it was constantly changing. The doctor carefully examined the mole and noticed that it was not only changing but moving. It turned out that it was a tick hidden under the skin. The dermatologist easily removed it and sent the patient home. And wasn't she ticked off? A man in Germany had headaches for many years. Then he began to see poorly with his right eye. Finally, he decided to see a doctor and found out that a 4-inch pencil was stuck in his head. It got there during an accident in the patient's childhood. It spent about 15 years in his head, but the man didn't know anything. Doctors successfully removed the foreign object from the head, and the man completely recovered sometime after surgery. A 75-year-old woman from Britain felt something wasn't right with her lungs. She came to the doctor, and they said she had a lung infection. The woman's daughter didn't believe him and decided to go to another hospital. The daughter brought her mother to another doctor, and they revealed the cause of the woman's condition. It turned out she had swallowed a denture that stuck in her throat. The false teeth were successfully pulled out, and the woman finally made a full chest breathe. Didn't she miss wearing her denture? I think that would have been a clue. The relationship between a man and a woman can lead to unexpected consequences. A resident of China quarreled with her boyfriend and decided to express her anger in an unusual way. She swallowed 20 cobblestones and thought they would come out naturally, but the stones stuck in the stomach and started knocking against each other. Of course, the girl went to the hospital where doctors removed them. YouTube rules do not permit me to make jokes about getting stoned, but come on, it's right there. A man in the UK decided to propose to his girlfriend, but first he went to a jewelry store to pick out a ring. The store manager showed him several options, and the man chose a very expensive and beautiful one. The problem was that the buyer didn't have money for this gem, so he decided to resort to a trick. When the seller turned away, the man just took the ring and swallowed it. The jeweler saw that it was gone and called the police. The man was sure the officers would search him and find nothing, but they came with a metal detector. When the police realized where the ring was, they put him in a cell, waiting for the body to return it naturally. I'd kind of like to know what the jewelry store told the next person who wanted that ring. In France, doctors faced a weird case when a man with abdominal pain came to them. During the examination, the doctors found out that there was something in his stomach. The man's family warned doctors that the patient liked to swallow coins. The doctors took an X-ray and noticed a large mass of foreign objects weighing 12 pounds. It's almost the weight of a bowling ball. When the operation began, doctors pulled 350 coins worth $650 out of the patient's stomach. But that wasn't all. Doctors removed a necklace and a needle from the body. Apparently, this man also had pica disorder. Now, sometimes brushing your teeth can be a dangerous activity. One 55-year-old man accidentally swallowed a toothbrush and did nothing. He lived for 2 weeks with a toothbrush in his stomach, and when he started to feel discomfort, he went to the hospital. Doctors were able to extract the brush and cure the patient. This 31-year-old came to the hospital with a sore throat. When the doctors examined her, they saw a fish bone stuck in her thyroid gland. Somehow it moved there from the swallowing channel. And this man from North Carolina began to experience fatigue and chronic cough. He lived with this condition for 2 years, then decided to go to the hospital. The doctors examined his lungs and found a plastic fork there. When they removed it, the man immediately felt better. You think?
1968 Summer Olympics, Mexico City. October 18th. It was the day track and field athlete Bob Beamon set a new world record. In a mere 6 seconds, he pulled off a 29.2-foot long jump, further than 2 cars lined up nose to tail, and smashed the old record by a whole 2 feet. Beamon's leap was literally off the charts. The equipment used to mark the distance couldn't read it. They had to bring out a measuring tape. When the numbers finally showed up on the board 15 minutes later, Beamon's knees gave out. He collapsed with shock and joy. Mike Powell surpassed that distance in 1991 with an impressive 29.36 feet at the World Championships in Tokyo, the #1 long jump record that still stands. But as far as Olympic long jumps go, Beeman still holds the top spot to this day, 52 years later. Even longer than Beeman's epic jump is one man's fingernails. A man from India started growing the nails on his left hand when he was 14. He kept growing them for over 65 years, and at the age of 82, with a combined fingernail length of nearly 30 feet, he finally cut them. You must have many years ahead of you to beat that. Your height probably won't win you any world records either. Robert Wadlow was, and still is, the tallest man ever. He towered at 8 feet 11 inches. Grown men's heads reached him at waist level. The giant of Illinois was last measured in 1940 and still holds the record 80 years later. On the other end of that spectrum, we have the shortest man ever. He was just 21.5 inches tall. His head wouldn't have reached Wadlow's knee height. A Czech track and field athlete ran half a mile, the length of 3 football fields, in just 1 minute and 53 seconds. She still holds that record since 1983. In almost 37 years, only one other athlete came within a second of it, but couldn't beat it. Speaking of time, 2 lovebirds named Octavio and Adriana got engaged in 1902. They enjoyed their engagement so much, they made it last 67 years. They finally tied the knot in 1969, when they were both 82 years old. Aww. Sometimes, though, age breaks a different record. A senior from Japan became the oldest professional club DJ at age 83, and she just picked up the hobby at 77. She works as a cook during the day and does her legendary party nights once or twice a month at a club in Tokyo. Fingers crossed we'll all break Jeanne Calment's record. She achieved the impossible and lived to be 122 years old. It's the longest lifespan a human being has ever achieved. She was born in 1875 and outlived her daughter, grandson, and the guy who she, at 90 years old, agreed to give her apartment to upon her passing. A British Navy officer holds the record for flying the most types of aircraft, 487, and the most aircraft carrier deck landings, 2,407. His records have remained unbroken for 75 years. One soccer referee holds the record for serving 36 red cards during one game. He sent off 22 players, all substitutes, and coaches after a brawl broke out. The most yellow cards served during another soccer game were 14. Not from the same ref, though. You won't find the most expensive human-made object on this planet. It's the International Space Station. It took 10 years to build and 40 trips to put together. The bill was $150 billion. If we consider all that money, each person on the ISS costs $7.5 million every day. That surely beats the most expensive yacht ever built, the History Supreme. It's made of solid gold and comes with a $4.8 billion price tag. No living creature, past or present, could take the blue whale's title. It's the largest animal, not only in the world, but in all the planet's history, too. The longest specimen on record was spotted more than a century ago, and it measured a little over 110 feet, longer than 2 semis lined up. The heaviest ever found weighed close to 210 tons, twice the average weight of a blue whale. Some people collect stamps and old coins. One man from New York collects Guinness World Records. He's broken 600 of them and currently holds more than 200 records. Those include the fastest mile while balancing a full milk bottle on his head, and the fastest time pushing an orange 1 mile using his nose. If each act takes at least 2 to 3 weeks to practice, with only a few successful ones, it'd take you more than 60 years to achieve that. But over time, Guinness World Records has also stopped awarding several categories, like anything to do with a person or animal eating way too much. In 1983, Edward Miller gained the title the world's greatest trencherman. He consumed 25,000 calories a day, and nobody could beat him in any eating contests since 1922. But in the 90s, Guinness stopped monitoring these, let's say, unhealthy stunts. You can still get a title for consuming something under a certain amount of time, but it's never for too long, maybe 30 seconds or a minute. So, sorry to disappoint, but you'll never get a world record for drinking thousands of gallons of soda over a lifetime. And if you like high speeds and long road trips, bad news. The category for high-speed circumnavigations by car got scrapped in 1996. Gotta keep the roads safe. The good news is, you can still try for the record on a bicycle. Being too loud won't get you a world record either. Many musicians tried for the title of the loudest band in the world by measuring decibel meters at concerts. One band reached 139 decibels. That's as loud as a jet engine, by the way, during the sound check, and 136 decibels during the show. But the noise was so bad that the band was forced to turn it down. Guinness stopped celebrating loud bands to protect people from losing their hearing. And of course, the one thing we'll never witness again is a balloon release of epic proportions. It started in 1986 with the infamous Balloon Fest in Cleveland, when a harmless fundraising event went terribly wrong. The organizers wanted to break the world record by releasing 2 million helium balloons in the air from the public square. Because of bad weather and other complications, they only inflated 1.4 million. During the big release, strong winds carried the balloons all over the place, and it spiraled a series of unfortunate events. 2 years later, Guinness officially recognized the event as the largest ever mass balloon release. But Cleveland also became the last city to hold such a record. Guinness has since stopped the category. The head of the management team at Guinness said they don't accept records that have anything to do with having the best-looking partner, getting the most promotions at your job in a year, creating the smallest paper plane, having the most unique name, writing the longest or shortest poem, predicting wins and losses at sporting events, massage marathons, and the longest time between asking someone on a date and then actually going on that date.
The heart continues beating on its own for around 3 minutes after being separated from its owner. It occurs because of a phenomenon called self-excitation, when something generates its own energy. When we appear in this world, we have 300 bones, but with time, some of them fuse, leaving us with around 206 bones. And still, some have extra bones in their skull structures. Those are Wormian bones, which are basically extra bone pieces found within the joints of the skull. If you laid flat the respiratory tubes in the lungs, they would cover an area as large as a tennis court, all thanks to 33 generations of branching. The brain is as cool as the lungs. It has 86 billion neurons, nerve cells that send messages all over your body and allow you to do everything from breathing to talking, eating and thinking, or doing sports. The brain also has up to 60 trillion synapses, the places where neurons connect and communicate with one another. That's more than all the leaves on all the trees in the world. And here's another fun fact. Your eyes are like car engines. They need fluids to function properly, just like an engine needs gasoline. So when you blink up to 20,000 times a day, you're basically giving your eyes a windshield wash. Have you ever blushed and felt your cheeks turn red? Well, did you know that your stomach lining can blush too? When you blush, there's an increased blood flow in your body, and that includes your stomach lining. It turns red because it has plenty of blood vessels, and when there's more blood than usual, it shows. Now, we all know that plastic is bad for the environment, but did you know that we can actually digest it in tiny quantities? However, our digestive system can't handle grass. Grazing animals have special teeth and several stomachs to process raw leaves and grass, while we're stuck with just one stomach. We all have 2 super fast muscles that control our eyelids closing. They're actually the fastest muscles in our body, and they shut our eyes within a mere 0.1 second when triggered. And while we still don't know why we blink, we do know that women blink more often than men, and that we tend to blink in unison when watching a movie with friends. Maybe it's just a weird human thing. By the way, every time you eat something, your esophagus, the organ your food travels through to reach the stomach, moves in a series of wave-like contractions, pushing the food forward. This process is called peristalsis. Your fingers don't have any muscles whatsoever. To move them, you involve tendons connected to muscles in your hands and forearms. Some people, around 12% of women and almost no men, have 4 cones in their eyes. This condition is called tetrachromacy. People with this peculiarity can see a whopping 100 million colors. Your body glows, emitting tiny amounts of barely visible light, the product of biochemical reactions going on in your organism. The light intensity changes throughout the day. Unfortunately, you can't detect it with the unaided eye. Marfan syndrome is a genetic condition that affects the body's connective tissues, making them more elastic. This can make you unusually tall, have elongated limbs, and often be extremely flexible. And some people use this as an advantage in their careers. Javier Botet was diagnosed with Marfan syndrome at a young age, but he made a name for himself in the horror film industry. He can contort his body in such an eerie and unsettling way that this has landed him roles in numerous films such as Mama, The Conjuring 2, It, and Slender Man. But Marfan syndrome is a spectrum disorder. While some people with the condition can live relatively normal lives, others may face serious health issues. The DEC2 gene mutation is a mutation that allows people to have just a few hours of sleep a night and still feel great. They don't get tired and never sleep in. On average, such people wake up at 4 or 5 a.m. No more than 5% of the world's population has this feature. Human embryos, the initial stage of development for a multicellular organism, have a tail, and it usually disappears before birth, leaving us with a tailbone. In the future, this structure will probably vanish altogether since it has no apparent purpose. People lose 30 to 40,000 skin cells every minute. It adds up to 43 to 57 million skin cells per day. But worry not. The epidermis, the top layer of your skin, replaces itself every 30 days or so. If this process happens faster, it can lead to skin flaking and irritation. The liver is a unique organ. It can regenerate after 60 to 70% is removed. At the same time, its shape may change afterward. It might sound like something out of a comic book, but humans can actually have super strength. Turns out, some accidental mutations can unleash titanic strength without any crazy workout routines. There are 2 proteins in our body, myostatin and activin A, that usually are secreted by muscle cells to suppress excessive growth. In other words, these 2 help regulate the size and number of your muscle cells, so you don't end up accidentally looking like Schwarzenegger. But as you can guess, some do end up like that. People with this genetic condition don't produce these proteins. Without hitting the gym, they can naturally grow their muscles extraordinarily large, resulting in super strength. It's called myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy. Sounds kinda dangerous, right? And it is. When you become a Superman, there's also the risk of muscle imbalance, heart and joint issues, and other problems. When you swallow, it takes the food from 5 to 8 seconds to travel from the mouth down to the stomach. Your eyes have 3 kinds of cones: red, blue, and green. Thanks to them, you can perceive around 1 million colors. Your hard-working heart will beat around 2.5 to 3 billion times and pump approximately 100 million gallons of blood in your lifetime. Speaking of your skull, it isn't a solid structure. It consists of 22 bones. 8 of them protect the brain and 14 form the facial skeleton. And since we're on the topic of the human head, the part of your brain that's responsible for vision is in the back of your head. Interestingly, the right side of your brain controls the vision on the left side, and vice versa. Breathing isn't only about moving the air inside and outside. It's about the way you do it, because it can literally affect your face shape. If you breathe through your nose, you'll get well-defined cheekbones over time. It will also make your face wider because your tongue will exert force against your jaw. If you breathe through your mouth, your tongue won't have a place to rest.
it will change your facial structure as time goes by. Your face can be more narrow and your cheekbones won't be that visible. Also, if you're a mouth breather, you'd probably tend to tilt your head backwards more. This way, you increase cranial contents in the back part of your brain and directly change your entire posture, along with the shape of your neck and face.
It's possible to taste your food without saliva. That's because the chemicals in your food must be dissolved in saliva before they get detected by your taste buds. By the way, each of your taste buds works as a mini-computer. It consists of up to 100 cells that analyze taste information. Anyway, speaking of food, eating too many carrots can indeed make your skin orange because of the high amount of beta-carotene this vegetable contains. If you have too much of this compound in your bloodstream, it'll gather in parts of your body with thicker skin, such as the soles of your feet, knees, elbows, palms, and even certain areas around your nose. But you can easily reverse this condition by eating fewer carrots. The chin muscles, aka the mentalis muscles, look like creepy, tiny tentacles. And still, they make it possible for you to create different facial expressions involving the lips, chin, and cheeks. Your small intestine is actually not so small. It's taller than you are, measuring from 9 to 16 feet. The cornea, that transparent front cover on your eyes, doesn't have any blood supply. It receives oxygen directly from the air. Our lungs are the only organs that can float on the water. All because they're made up of around 300 million balloon-like structures called alveoli.
Your bones are 4 times harder than concrete. The strongest bone in your body is the femur. It can support up to 30 times the weight of a grown-up person. Even crazier is that our bones are made up of composite material, meaning they're both hard and elastic at the same time. The outer layer of your skin is thicker on your feet than on other parts of your body. The heart has its own electrical system and can continue beating even when it's disconnected from the body. The average lifespan of one eyebrow hair is 4 months. We spend 40% of our life with our eyes closed. Most of that time is when we're sleeping, but don't forget to count blinking too, or while driving. In an adult, the blood makes up 7 to 8% of the total body weight. About 55% of your blood is liquid plasma. The rest is red and white blood cells and platelets. They form clots and prevent bleeding.
The density of your brain increases throughout your whole life, all because new neural connections pop up. And they appear because the structure of your brain keeps changing too. The same process of changing will occur to your feet too. They're likely to become bigger with time. When people grow older, ligaments and tendons in their feet weaken. This makes the arches flatter and feet become wider and longer. People who live to be 110 years and older have more immune cells, called T helpers, than the average person. These cells are likely to protect them from viruses and other health problems. The human brain is sometimes called a random thought generator for a reason. More than 48 thoughts appear in your brain in just 1 minute. It's almost 3,000 thoughts per hour and 69,000 per day. You know these before and after makeovers? Well, if you saw a pic of an average human who lived about 1 million years ago, compare it to a pic of an average human who lives today, you'd be astonished. And get this, it's a makeover performed by Mother Nature. Like back in the day, the earliest human species were basically tiny with long arms and short legs. They needed a big digestive tract to handle all those plants they were chowing down on, and their rib cages were super wide to make room for all the organs breaking down their food. Time went by and some of these humans started adapting to hot climates, and they all got narrow and leggy to stay cool. They started eating meat and other quick-to-digest foods, which meant they could have smaller digestive tracts and use more energy for their tall bodies and big brains. And when humans spread to colder climates, they evolved short, wide bodies to conserve heat, but they still love their raw meat and cooked food, which could be easily processed in a short digestive tract. Check out this skeleton of an 8 to 9-year-old Homo erectus kid from East Africa. He was already 5 feet 3 inches tall and weighed 106 pounds. If he had grown up, he could have been almost 6 feet tall. His lean body was perfect for hot, dry environments. And then there were the Neanderthals, who were only about 5 foot 4 inches tall on average. They had short, broad bodies that were great for dealing with winter cold and even ice ages.
Speaking of the brain, it can decide what sounds to focus on when you're in a loud place. Thanks to this ability, you can shut out all other voices and concentrate on the person you're listening to. In most cases, hiccups are harmless and resolve by themselves within a couple of minutes. But if you want to avoid this condition, you should know that it might occur because of temperature changes. There's a bond between your digestive system and your brain, the gut-brain axis. This is the main reason why stress or brain issues can affect the way your body digests food. These days, humans have softer diets and, consequently, smaller jaws. That's why wisdom teeth aren't really necessary, and around 20% of people don't have all 4 of them. The vomeronasal organ helps some animals detect pheromones. Some have vestigial VNO too, but it's mostly non-functional and is likely to disappear with time.
You flex that strong handshake and think it's all because of your gym grind? Ha! Turns out your pinky finger is the real MVP. No joke. Believe it or not, that little finger packs a punch and is responsible for 50% of your hand strength. Who knew the underdog could be such a powerhouse? Your toes are like 2 little homies that carry almost half of your body weight, and don't even listen to people who say you don't need them. Your toes are the most important guys when it comes to walking and pushing you forward. Our hair color is easily explained by genes. There are not more than 2% of people with natural red hair. They're followed by blondes, about 3%, and by all the varieties of brown shades, only about 11%. The vast majority goes to black hair, including very dark brown. Who knew that nails had a secret talent besides helping us pick up tiny objects and peel off stickers? They also give us a structure to press against so we know how firmly to hold anything. Talk about multi-talented. Move over, Rapunzel. It's not just our hair and nails that can grow. Our liver can regenerate itself from just 51% of its original size back to full size. But don't go damaging it too much, or you'll end up with scars.
In the future, people are likely to change due to extensive use of technology. So we might have text claws, cramping from gadget use, and 90-angle elbows from holding our devices. Besides, there's a theory that humans are likely to get smaller to conserve energy in our increasingly crowded world. Your body maintains a very careful water balance, and if it loses just 1% of water, you start feeling thirsty. Your brain can process up to 1,000 words per minute while you're reading. Rapid eye movements, saccades, help us absorb information more quickly. As for your tongue, together with your lips and teeth, it allows you to say more than 90 words per minute using over 20 various movements. Your body constantly converts food into energy. 1 calorie is equal to around 4,200 joules. And that's how much you need to change the temperature of 2.2 pounds of water by 1 Kelvin. People have as many hairs on their bodies as chimpanzees. The only difference is that human body hair is mostly useless and so fine that it's almost impossible to see.
Who would have thought that tomatoes have more genes than humans? But don't worry, it's not the number of genes that matters. It's how they all work together. So go ahead and enjoy that tomato sauce on your pizza. Hold your nose the next time you eat and see how much your taste buds fade. It turns out that the nose is actually responsible for 75 to 95% of our taste perception. So don't underestimate the power of those sniffers. Keep your mouth hydrated or your taste buds won't work properly. Saliva triggers chemical reactions with enzymes that break down the food as soon as it enters your mouth. So drink up and savor those flavors. Forget about distinguishing between 10,000 smells. Recent research shows that we can actually differentiate between over 1 trillion smells. And not only that, but smells can evoke some distant memories too. So next time you catch a whiff of something familiar, take a moment to reminisce. When you're snoozing away, your sense of smell goes on vacation too. So even if your room smells like a dumpster fire, you won't even notice it. Sweet dreams, right? And speaking of dreams, did you ever wonder why some of them are in black and white, while others are like a rainbow explosion? Well, apparently it all depends on the TV you watched as a kid. So I guess your grandparents had some pretty boring dreams, huh?
Chromesthesia is seeing colors when you're listening to music. It's a kind of synesthesia, a phenomenon when people have several senses mixed. Some of them perceive numbers in different colors. Others can taste words. People have more than 5 basic senses. Don't forget about the sense of space, the sense of pain, the sense of balance and time, the sense of temperature around and in the body, and many others. Your teeth are the only part of your body that can't repair itself, but the enamel which covers them is one of the toughest things in the human body. After growing several human taste cells in the lab, scientists found out that they had an ability to smell. In each of them, there were a few molecules similar to the ones found in the cells in your nose. Apparently, our senses of smell and taste are even more connected than we thought before. Now let's talk about listening to your heart. Not only is it a great metaphor for following your dreams, but it can also give you away if you're lying. Yeah, your heart rate starts racing like Usain Bolt when you're fibbing. Okay, brace yourself for this one. Even if you brush your teeth like a champ and use mouthwash like it's going out of style, your mouth is still a germ hotspot. Gross, right? But don't worry, most of those bacteria are actually good for us and keep the bad stuff away. But wait, there's more. The belly button is actually the second dirtiest place on our bodies. Yeah, I know, who knew? Since we don't really use it after we're born, it becomes a breeding ground for all kinds of icky stuff. It's got over 2,300 bacterial species living in there. So maybe it's time to give our belly button some extra TLC.